one. And we are recording episode 877, Tuesday, August 9th, 2022 at 4:26 p.m. Eastern time. 77 years ago, they dropped the A-bomb on Nagasaki.
True.
But that has nothing to do with what we're talking about today. Frederik is coming to us from Berlin, Germany, and I think aside from like one other guest, this is the longest game of like email back and forth we've gone. I got to reschedule. I'm sick. You're sick. I'm sick. Wrong time. But it has happened before, and I don't give a shit. And just so happened to happen with us. And but now we are finally doing it. I think we've been in contact for like 3 or 4 months, but it's finally here. The stars have aligned. And Frederik, why don't you introduce yourself and then take it away?
Hey, as you said, my name is Frederik or Freddy. I used to be a professional computer player like 20 years plus ago in StarCraft, vice world champion in Korea.
Really?
I was playing computer games professionally before it was considered cool, nor were you making a lot of money. Not close to what people make now. Like when I became vice world champion in 2003 in Korea, that was $10,000. You know,
Yeah,
that's
and now
not comparable.
you get like $1 billion for just fucking doing anything.
Yeah, I mean, you don't even need to be a player. You can just talk about stuff on the stream.
You can talk about playing. Yeah, it's we were just talking about that beforehand, just how utterly unfair and meritocracy. You get on TikTok, you shake your ass and pour pancake batter on yourself. You get $1 million. You hunt down doctors and NSA agents and CIA analysts and soldiers in Ukraine and try to spill the beans on real stuff. And what do you get? You get banned from YouTube. So I don't know what
or a bullet
there. Or a bullet. Best case scenario, banned from YouTube, as we saw yesterday, where the FBI raids the former president's house, and it seems like I don't know how much longer in the United States it's going to be. You only get banned from YouTube, and but yeah, so it goes.
It is a weird time, especially the last couple of years. You know, free speech is under attack, free thought is under attack. You know, science is under attack. Double-blind placebo studies are under attack. You know, adverse event reporting is under attack. It's a very special time. I think none of us, like the folks your age and my age, I believe, at least in my friend circle, nobody has ever asked as many questions or felt as unsure about how we are governed and how the system works as people are now. When I was younger, I thought it's kind of a broken system in parts, but it felt like, you know, those people are kind of shady and do shitty, but the overall system is still intact. And now it's kind of like the curtain has been pulled down and people are like, what? This is how it's going down? You can just, you know, not release the other studies and release the one and then roll out product to billions of people?
Yeah, there's always been that feeling. I mean, I'm 32.
I turned 38.
Okay. There's always been that feeling of like, there's fuckery. What are you surprised? Corporations are putting profits first. Yeah, and what, politicians are lying and the CIA is doing shady shit. Like, yeah, no shit, right? And water's wet, but it's kind of like, you know, you realize that by the time you're like 15, you're like, yeah, I mean, what do you expect? But like you said, at least for me, I've had the same feeling where like overall it seemed like the system was like pretty good. It had its flaws, right? And now you really are starting to see it's not at first, at least for me in the last 2 years, it started to seem like, oh, the system's falling apart. And now I think what we're seeing is how the system's been run for hundreds of years. We're just seeing it now. That really it has always been rotten to the core.
Yeah, I mean, it's still, to me, it's unclear what the agenda really is. I mean, you can go certain ways or other ways depending on how you consume your information and where you get it. But it's still unclear to me what the master plan behind this is. But it just seems so weird to do it so in the open and to kind of say things and do things that kind of have no, I would say a lot of the decisions in the last 2 years have been quite the opposite of what makes sense, and to me, it's still shocking that 2-3 years into this pandemic, there's so many open questions about where it came from, like, do masks work, stuff that would be in a study in the first month of the pandemic to figure out, does this work, does that work? Ivermectin, let's have 10 studies for $1 billion, because there's so much money. Like, why is none of this happening? And then you look deeper and deeper, and it makes less and less sense. And I think, I'm not sure about you, but for me, it was a transition period. In the beginning, I was quite fearful. I was more timid than my friends. I kind of self-isolated and so on. And then over the months and years, it was like, what is happening? It makes no sense to this day. In certain supermarkets, you see people having masks on. I see people in the park alone in the sun with a mask on. It's kind of like they are brainwashed at this point, because not even science that is kind of corrupted says wear a mask outside.
I'm with you. At first it was scary. To say that it wasn't scary is lying. I mean, it was like weird. It was like, oh, it's coming to another country. Oh, they're like shutting down travel. Oh, they're shutting down the Olympics. Like I vividly remember like Googling on my phone. I was like, is this the end of the world? Because it kind of seemed like it, right? And then it went by, and then I got COVID in August 2020. I was sick as shit for like a week. And then like a couple other people I worked with got it. We all got through it. And it's not to make light of those that died, but you started to realize you're like, oh, life's going on. And then you slowly started. I used to work in a liquor store, and we'd all be sitting around inside with our masks off. And then we'd see a car pull up through the window. We'd see like 5 girls get out. None of them would have masks on. They would all put on their masks. We would put on our masks. They'd come in. We'd do the charade. They'd leave. We'd take them off. They'd take them off. And yeah, like as soon as the store closed, we all take them off, and we're like 9 p.m. It's COVID's not here anymore. And you started to realize it's not the end of the world. And then you start, and I remember at first I was having on doctors. I was so psyched. I was like, this is cool. I was like, there's someone's going to make history. They're going to make the vaccine. It's going to be a fucking awesome story, right? It's going to be on par with like ending World War II. And then I remember like just kind of reading one day. I think it was on like CNN or some shit. And it was like, well, the vaccines, they don't prevent infection or transmissibility. And I looked at it and I was like, wait, what? I was going to get the vaccine. And I was like,
I was in the same shoes.
I looked at it and I was like, am I fucking high? And I like brought it up at work. I was like, do you know it doesn't actually? And other people were like, dude, just get it. And I was like, no, what? I was like, hold on. No. Hold on. This isn't making sense. And people were like, shut up. And I was like, oh, something's up. And then starting to talk about it on the podcast. And I'd never had a problem before. And then YouTube started giving me strikes and then suspensions. And I was like, oh, there's fuckery afoot. And then I started reading into the history of Big Pharma. I had on Gerald Posner, the author of the book Pharma. Started learning about the Sackler family, the what is it? Who's the one to make Oxycontin? Walton, not Walton. That's the Walmart. Not important. Watson, and Purdue Pharma. And I started reading about all of that, and not just from like the 60s, but into like the 80s, 90s, 2000s. And I was like, this is right in the rearview mirror. They were doing this shit when iPods were out. Like, this isn't that old. And then all the pieces started kind of coming together. And I was like, oh, this is fucked. This whole thing's fucked.
Yeah. I mean, what you said earlier about the mask, for me, it's crazy that to this day we debate about the issue, whether it works or not. If it works, then it should be easily provable. And if it doesn't, it's how is this still a topic, And you find people on both ends that are 100% certain that they don't work, they do work. And this is just one example. You have so many of these examples. It's kind of like mainstream misinformation campaign where in the end nobody really knows, but they just follow rules because they don't want to think about it anymore.
But it is interesting in that it starts to fine hone your critical thinking skills, because you start to come to the conclusion that, well, the science should be self-evident, right? You can burn the astronomer at the stake, or log him in the basement, or excommunicate him from the church for saying that the earth isn't the center of the universe. But I mean, as time goes on, the truth just is. It's what it is. And you don't need to have a PR campaign. I always use this example to say that gravity is 9.81 meters per second squared. Like, it just is. Like, you can take that camera, you can see how much time passed, you can see how fast it fell, you can do the calculations, and you're going to come out to roughly 10 meters per second. It just is. You don't have to, you do rain dances to make the rain come to have the crops. And then one year you don't do the rain dance and the rain still comes, and you go, I think it just rains in the spring. It just is. And
I mean, I would agree with you about, most things, but the problem is if the narrator tells you what the truth is, despite, the evidence saying another thing, and people just follow it because, they're used to, that the majority should be right, then it becomes complicated when people don't question anymore. When people say, well, you have an idea about the virus, but you're not the virologist, so you cannot have an opinion.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a very problematic position people put themselves and others in when you cannot openly debate complicated topics anymore, because you're not quote unquote an expert, and only quote unquote experts can have an opinion on things, And
Yeah.
to me, that's very anti-intellectual and very non-curious about the world. And that's a mindset that I think is a problem in our society. If it gets further than that, you have drones that just do what the overlord tells them to do.
I think you and I are both right in that. Let's use this example again, dropping the water bottle. But instead of this camera, which is just right real time, 1 second is 1 second, it's whatever it is, 30 frames per second. What if we were using like an industrial slow motion camera, like 1,000,000 frames a second, where you ever seen that YouTube channel, Slow Mo Guys? Or they'll shoot the bullet through the water balloon. It's whatever the fuck. It's great. And as time's gone, they've been on YouTube for like 15 years, and they've gotten, tons of money, and they get better and better cameras, to the point where like they'll film 1 second and it would take a year to watch the full thing. That's how much information is in it. So let's say we have one of those cameras and I let go of my water bottle, and I'm telling you, no, Frederik, people will see that it's 9.81 meters per second squared. And you're going, I get it. But the narrator is saying, look, the water bottle's not moving. We're both right in that I say it's moving, and you're saying people are listening to the narrator. What we're not considering is the dimension of time. Now let's wait 6 months if we're using the camera. Now all of a sudden, it's starting to go down. You're still right in that like half the amount of people will just still listen to the narrator. But as time goes on, we're going to start to. So I think right now we're in the middle of like a slow motion thing, in that we're both right. People are waking up and using critical thinking, and the truth is becoming apparent. But there's still a lot of people who are watching it and going, no, the water bottle is not moving. Or even when they start to see it move, they go, the narrator said it didn't move. Give it, what is it? It's 2022.
That's the most optimistic I have heard you in a while.
Well, I mean, yeah, I know, right? Well, I got to get back to being optimistic. But I mean, if I had talked about, vaccines in August 2020, that'd sound crazy. August 2021, I get banned from YouTube because the views started getting traction. August 2022, those are my most viewed videos.
Interesting.
It's going. It might take 2023, 2024. I don't know. It might. Who knows? Maybe you and I will both get shot in the face one day. Eventually, like the astronomer, it will come out. It's just It would.
Well, I'm usually the positive guy here, and you're the doomsday guy, from what I grasp. So it's interesting to hear. My point was more like, if you can funnel the narrative into a certain way, I'm sure there are examples in history where we have no clue what actually happened, and
Sure.
whatever the story is, we bought it, we
But,
ate it, and now we
but
re-narrate it.
important clarification, and I've used that example too.
Mm.
Non-scientific things. We'll never really know what happened with JFK. We won't. They did it too well. There's no piece of evidence somewhere. They burned it all. They killed everyone, and all the people involved were dead. But that's a political thing. That didn't. There's not science in that. The moon landing, you can deny it. One day, we'll all have cameras that can zoom in, and we'll go, "Hey, there's the lunar lander. It happened." Do you get what I mean? One science, one is a human event. You can fudge a human event. Yeah, no, those stories are lost to history. We'll never really know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I think we agree basically on it. It's just that, in certain ways, I think 10 years from now, this will, a certain amount of the population will look at this and say, well, glad that we got the vaccines in the mass. That's how we got out of this. Right?
Sure. Oh, yeah, no, that narrative will still run. No, it will.
But I agree about the time frame, and I hope a lot of the good stuff happens in my lifetime, because the time frame might be 500 years where they figure out, oh, those people were full of shit and they got bought off to say certain things. But my last example, and then we can move on, is about when they said certain things about sugar and I don't know, 60s, and scientists got bought off. Then your science example doesn't work anymore, because you can
But it does work, because now we're talking about it.
Yes.
And it does come. It took 6 decades, and a lot of people got diabetes, but it did come out. That doesn't mean it's going to happen in our lifetime. Doesn't mean it's going to happen in our kids' lifetime. It will eventually. It's like the glacier moving. It moves an inch a year. It'll fucking bulldoze mountains. It'll take 1,000,000 years. It will do it.
You think our grandchildren will have the Pfizer papers in hand?
Have what?
The Pfizer documents.
We might. Oh, dude, it might. It might. I mean, fuck, it might go Nazi. They might have 1,000-year Reich. I don't know. But what I mean is, eventually, the truth will come out. And even if it doesn't, even if they kill off all of humanity, the truth will still just exist, because it's what it is. If an asteroid hits the Earth and vaporizes it, the gravitational constant is still the same. Mars doesn't give a shit. The sun doesn't care. The Andromeda galaxy is not like, oh God, they just killed humanity. There goes. No. The protons in a star in the Andromeda galaxy, or the Triangulum galaxy, they have the same proton decay. There's the same electromagnetic forces. It doesn't care. It does not care. It just is. It's not that it cares or doesn't care. It just is. So that's kind of where I come from.
No, I see your point. I just hope we get some of the answers in our lifetime.
Oh, me too.
Hopefully some of what we see on the horizon for, the winter wave and, new vaccines and so on, is something that does not happen in the worst kind of way that we can imagine. Because I don't know about you, but in my circle, more and more of the parents of friends of mine have weird problems health-wise, like cancer is on the rise, and sudden death syndrome and stuff like that. So I hope it's not connected to anything that's been rolled out in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be COVID, it could be the vaccine, it could be something else, but I'm kind of terrified if some of the conspiracy might become true when it comes to the effects of the spike protein in the body, whether it's from COVID or from the vaccine.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't want to be right. Like, there's no, everyone with the exception of like 5 people, everyone I know and love, everyone I know and just kind of like, all have the vaccine or all got it. I told you it was a fucking poison. Take that, cousin or aunt or you know, fucking whatever, or best friend told you, what am I cheering for? I don't want to be
Yeah.
right. I want to be wrong. I would love nothing more if in 10 years I was like, oh my God, I really was a menace to society. I was spreading misinformation. I would love if it came out that like all the doctors I had on were like bought off by fucking whatever, you know, ivermectin, or I would love to be wrong, because that would be such a beautiful learning experience, because I would look back at how certain I was that I was right. And I would be happy. I'd be like, hey, I'm the idiot.
Yeah, yeah. I told my family the same in the beginning of the pandemic. I told them I hope we sit at the Christmas table, and you guys are all making fun of me for
Yeah.
how foolish I was.
Yeah.
And it was back then out of fear of that Corona might be real, because that back then it was just in China. And then later on, everybody got the vaccine, and I once again was on the other side. So it's kind of hard to swim against the current all the time, especially when it's like if the whole world is kind of impacted by this.
Yeah.
And for a certain time now it's better, but you were kind of a renegade when you, or kind of looked down upon in society when you were not following the official agenda. Now it's gotten better, I think, because people realize it's not what it was supposed to be, and the difference is not that big. But the problem with the adverse events is it's really hard to trace it down to what the reason is, right? You know, certain events, they happen, and it could be this, it could be age, it could be something else. So it might take time to figure out what this really is. I haven't followed Corona too deeply in the last couple months, or the pandemic situation anymore. But do you know if there was this insurance data? You remember the excess death data
From what?
from 2021, where I think Robert Malone talked about the data that came out by big insurance
Oh
companies.
yeah, the 40% increase,
Yeah,
where yeah, a 10% increase is like a once in 200-year event.
yeah. Is this figured out yet? Because I mean, this is such a large
That was such a
number,
large story. Yeah, you're right. I don't
but
I don't
it's
think I've
still
heard any
unclear.
more of it. So there's a thing where like I would love for me to be wrong. I do remember him bringing that up on one of my episodes.
Mm.
I would love to be wrong. Yeah, you're right. Actually,
Like, what happened with
I'll
that?
Google that right now. I don't know. Hold on.
Because I thought like this is the most
Yeah, you're
pressing
right. That's a
question.
huge. If 40% more people are dead,
Yeah.
unless the censorship machine is so good, but Occam's razor would say that it wasn't true. So let's look up.
I mean, also, we would see certain signals for the next years or the years to come.
Yeah.
So
Insurance company, 40%. Of course, Google won't finish it.
yeah, I started DuckDuckGo, and then they decided also to.
DuckDuckGo went full. Do you think
Yeah.
that guy actually had a change of heart, or do you think that guy got a visit from some
I
mercenaries?
didn't follow it
Or
like
did
too
he get
closely.
NPC'd? Is he really just fucking?
I think they just realized, well, we can play against the rules, but then we might not be a player for long.
Yeah.
That could have been the case, but also some of that's the issue here. I mean, we are not 100% assured to be right either. So some of those people, they are not doing it out of harming others. They truly believe that what they're saying and doing is for the better good of others. So it's
So I'm looking online, and there's really no article past January 2022. Now, granted, I'm using Google, but okay, there's one February 23, 2022 from the Wall Street Journal. Let's see news. Okay, well, here's one from 7 hours ago, but I don't know where this. Let's see. Huge. It's all from January.
yeah, nobody
So
really followed through on this, because I thought like it's the most
that would be the
pressing
biggest.
problem. Yes, it's like, if this is true and it's not like made up by some conspiracy guy, but like it's official data, and governments have also that data, then why are we not talking about this 24/7 investigating what kills more people than usual? I mean, that would be the most obvious test to have.
Yeah.
But it disappeared.
Yeah. And so that's something where I would go, I was wrong, right? Because even with like a COVID narrative, you can still find something. You won't find it on YouTube, but you can go to Rumble, BitChute, Odyssey. You can go to Rogan, find it on Spotify. You can find it on, whatever, a Facebook thread or a Reddit thread. You can still find it. They'll try to do the whack-a-mole, but you can still find it. There's no one even talking about that. So you could back yourself into a corner and go, it's because the deep state's censoring everything. It's the Occam's razor would say. It's like if you finally get a telescope strong enough and you zoom in and you go, hey, there's the lunar lander. You could go, well, NASA flew it up there in 2015. Or you were wrong, right? And you got the little ego chip. You go, fuck, I'm an idiot. So there's something where I looked back, that was probably 7 months ago, where we have them on talking about insurance company claims. I think I was wrong.
I'm not sure you were. It's more like the story was big and then it disappeared. People are supposedly still excess death, I would think.
Again, we'll see. It will come out, right? I mean, census data, but that's controlled by the government. I think you'll see, and I don't know. I mean, it will manifest in one way or another. You'll have a private company saying, yeah, not as many people are buying phones this year, right? You'll have something that doesn't give a shit about government narrative that just wants money, right? You'll have Apple come out and they're indifferent to COVID, but they're like, nobody's buying MacBooks. And then we'll be like, oh, fuck, everybody's dead, right? You'll have Zuckerberg come out and be like, yeah, Facebook's losing a ton of money, right? So I don't know. No, because you could still artificially do that with bots. It would be something real. It would be like food consumed. It would be, yeah, cars bought. It would be something real because there's no way you and I would know. I mean, I go as long as like the town I'm in hasn't been nuked. If you just like cut, like I wouldn't know if 3 billion people died from COVID or if 10 people died. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't fucking. What am I doing? Am I going over to India and be like, huh? Is this how I remember it? Like, no, I've never left the United States. I live in a bumblefuck town. Like, I don't know. I don't know. So,
truth be told, if nobody told me that there's a pandemic in the last 2 years, nobody would have even witnessed it. Like some people died, some older people especially, and I mean, I'm not trying to make light of this, but in your friend circle, I bet under 40, you basically don't know a person that died of COVID.
I know one guy that died. There's a guy I used to go to the gym with, and he was like late 50s, overweight though, had been a drinker his whole life. Every day he and I would sit in the sauna, and he had beat cancer several times, and he was trying to lose weight, and he was having like heart surgeries. He had
that's extreme case though.
Yeah, that guy, I know that guy died. And if he had died regardless, I would have said, well, it kind of seemed like that was just going to happen, right? Regardless of the pandemic. I mean, if he had just dropped dead, I wouldn't be that surprised. I don't know. And that might just be my own, just because I don't know anyone, that also doesn't mean it's not true. That could be my own myopic view.
Right? Of course. I'm not saying it's not real or anything. I'm just saying under 40, I don't know a single person that has died in my friend circles or friend circles. Obviously, some people under 40 die, but it's very rare. It's usually older people or people with comorbidities and serious health issues. I'm not saying we should take it easy, but at the same time, I think one of the big issues was that everybody was so frightened. If it would be like, if you are overweight, if you have some problems, maybe even cancer, and you're older, then this is very dangerous. But if you're 12 years old, you're not the death angel that's gonna kill grandma and all this stuff. I think a lot of people have psychological problems from the pandemic and
Sure.
our reaction to the pandemic. And
But how do you not?
Yeah, how do you not? And also, I think life changed in the last 2 years. I mean, online dating has changed a lot. I think people are different. I think there's less hope, there's less optimism. A lot of bad things have happened to humanity in the last 2 years. Not just the pandemic, but our joy is less than before, I think, for life.
Yeah, and you have to wonder, are we just going through a growth period, or is this like the end? And see, I have to recognize that myself, because the biggest critique I get from people is that I'm way too optimistic. And
Really?
and then it surprised me because you go, Tommy, you're the doom and gloom guy. And for a second I was like, wait, what? But that goes to show I've changed. But then that also puts like a burden on your own shoulders where like, hey, the world might be getting darker, but you still have to do your part to make it brighter. Right? It's like the milkman, that famous photo of the milkman in bombed out Britain in London, and he's carrying, keep calm and carry on. That's where it comes from. It's just like, listen, I'm not saying that like the Nazis aren't shooting missiles at us, but you can't just say it's over. Part of you has to be just like, hey, just ignore the bombed out building. I got to deliver milk. So, yeah, it does seem darker, but that doesn't mean we can just accept it and say it's all fucked, because then it's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. We're all going to be depressed and we're all going to make it worse. You can't be blind to it. You can't pretend it's not happening. But like, my air conditioner works. I went to the gym today. It was beautiful. It's hot as fuck, but it's beautiful. Sun's shining. My internet worked. You and I got the podcast finally worked. I mean, there are good things. Those are good things. My car works. I have running water.
I'm also usually the optimistic guy. It's just, it's such a massive event. It has changed my perception of reality and made me more afraid of big government and overreach. And now with the WHO system in place, where all these countries in lockstep will do certain things during the next pandemic, it's kind of scary. But that's my problem. For the last 2-3 years, I had to live in different possible realities. One where there's let me just turn this off. One where this is gonna be really bad for us long term, and what we take to counterattack the pandemic is also gonna be a problem for our health. And maybe 2 years from now, everything is gonna be normal again. So who knows? I'm trying to be optimistic as well. I'm just saying, it has changed me, and not in a sad way, more like I question a lot more. And I used to be somebody where people told me, you should not be as critical about your environment and question so much. That was before the pandemic.
Yeah, because there is a diminishing returns, right? Questioning COVID, okay, but I can't like get on the road every day and be like, do the streetlights work? Like, you can't get on a plane and go like, is the pilot fucked? Because then you're gonna go insane and then you're not gonna enjoy life.
Yeah.
Like I just kind of have to. I'm on the second floor. I kind of have to just assume the engineers that built this building 50 years ago, they did the math right. I kind of just have to accept that, because otherwise you're gonna go nuts. But it's also like a natural, like right after World War II, I mean, so many people, they all had, they'd stuff cash under the bed. They all had their own food. They had preserves in the basement. They had fucking guns. And, for the next 50 years, you kind of look back at them and be like, yeah, we got, they came out of World War II. They were paranoid. And then we kind of slipped into complacency. And now here we are. We're going, that's not a bad idea to have a year of food in your basement, and it's, I don't know. So,
to be honest, this is also the first time that people talk in Germany and Europe. Gun laws are. I think Switzerland has as many guns per capita as the US, but in general, you don't see people wearing guns or guns in general outside of the police forces, right?
Yeah.
But in the last 2 years, people told me like this is the first time I'm actually thinking of getting a gun, just to be, assured that if shit hits the fan, I can protect myself from, guys trying to get my reserves or the whatever, maybe the government trying to force me into things I don't want to do. So I think people have become more aware of a potential danger coming from authorities.
It is a weird game of like musical chairs where it's like we're all still playing the dance. I go to the store and I can go get a bag of chicken from the freezer and I can walk out and just take a plastic card and swipe it and I'm allowed to leave. It's not that there's barbed wire and sandbags around the place. But it is like a weird game of musical chairs where it's like I'm still allowed to just use the plastic card and you're going to give me the chicken and we're good.
Because your credit score is positive there.
It's and then every like military friend I have is like moved out. That's a bad omen when like every veteran I know has like sold everything and moved out into like the mountains and just bought guns and farming. Like everyone I know. That's not a good sign.
No, it's not a good sign.
But it could also be that that's what they're trained to see. And maybe they're looking at it as these guys have fought in Iraq and Afghanistan, and they might be like, I'm just never going to let that happen to me again. I don't know. I have no idea. But it's definitely not a good sign.
No, it's not a good sign. On the other hand, who knows? Maybe in a year or two, it's really gonna die down. And I see more and more people being more relaxed about the overall situation. And I think a lot of the hysteria of the last 2 years doesn't work anymore with the majority, I would say. Yeah. I'm not sure about your circle, but I mean, a year ago, people were reacting a lot more than now. You cannot really shock people with Corona numbers anymore. I think it's become normal almost.
Yeah. I think that like another possibility is what we're going through right now is something like post 9/11 America, the first couple of years, where like we got to go to Afghanistan. Well, of course, the bomb, fucking took down the World Trade. Allegedly, or it's the CIA. I don't know, give or take. Okay, and then we're going to Iraq. Why are we going to Iraq? But it's shut up. We gotta go. We just gotta go fucking kill him. And it's like, all right, like you have a couple. You have like a Ron Paul who's like, we're not gonna do this. You have a Bernie Sanders, but I mean, come on, 99% of people are like, what are you, fucking? Are you terrorist? It's not the war on it's GWAT. It's the global war on terror. What are you, fucking pussy? You want this to happen again?
Also, they have weapons of mass destruction.
They have weapons of mass destruction. You're scared shitless. There's no social media to kind of like, YouTube wasn't around. There's no independent channels. Yeah, you just kind of bum rush your way into it. And then 20 years later and trillions of dollars when you go, all right, I think that was kind of fucked. And we pull out and we all just kind of go, well, that was embarrassing. But we still kind of saw it through as like, oh, that was bullshit. So like, it might be like a 20-year thing where it seemed like we were never going to leave Iraq. And now, and now we're gone. We go, oh, it did end. Vietnam did end. It took 10 years. This one took 20 years. But it did end. The Cold War eventually ended.
That's so weird that Iraq was longer than the Vietnam War, right?
Twice as long.
But it's so weird because Vietnam War is something I know from the history books or some documentaries, but Iraq happened right under my nose, like while I was on Earth, and it's like 20 years, and there was no real reason to go there except for the
defense contractors.
Yes, it's crazy to me. But yeah, I actually wanted to come on for a different topic, but we went down this rabbit hole already. Yeah, dude, so I'm not sure if we can start the other one.
Let's keep going with this. It's the natural flow of the podcast. You have to kind of just ride the wave of what it is. It's okay. That's what I've learned in my 876 episodes is to not direct it. Much like the narrative, right? Mm-hmm. You have to this is disinformation, this is misinformation, that's hate speech. And it's like, no, just fucking just let it go. Whatever it is, it is. That's one thing I've kind of learned with the podcast, with the exception of like, I don't know, like an author about a specific book. That's okay. But everything else, you kind of just have to let it flow naturally, right? And it might also be, I'll get back to this point. I really got to go to the bathroom. Frederik, I need you to monologue. Tell people where to find you if you got social media or whatever the fuck.
Oh no, I don't really have social media. I'm not.
Just take it away.
Yeah, take your bathroom break. No, the other topic that I wanted to bring, or the main topic that I wanted to bring today to the show, was related to blockchain and Bitcoin and who Satoshi Nakamoto is, which is completely opposite from the pandemic, except for that there might be some intersection with the WEF. But I'm not sure if this is like a quick topic. So let's see if what rabbit hole Tommy and I will go down, and if we can make it through to the blockchain part of it. Otherwise, it might have to be a different episode, and I jump on this podcast again. Yeah. I haven't listened to Tommy's podcast in the last few weeks, actually. So last time he spoke about having episode 700 something, or maybe in the early 800s. So he's putting it out there frequently. And in general, I got introduced to Tommy's podcast through, as I alluded to earlier, through Robert Malone and Peter McCullough, and some other doctors and people that are very closely involved with the pandemic in one way or the other. But I thought that since the audience is probably a bit more conspiracy interested, or at least questions more, that the topic I wanted to bring to the table would be something that a few people might want to hear about. All right.
What?
I just kind of teased the Bitcoin blockchain topic for your audience.
Well, here I'm gonna put you in right now because we're still gonna talk for a bit, but I'm gonna put you in for next week, same time, same day, and we'll actually do what the episode was supposed to. Are you cool with that? Are you cool with that?
Yeah, sure. Sure. I just, it's a topic that's quite complex, and to me, it's a more interesting and rewarding rabbit hole than the pandemic one. But it's something I can kind of start talking about, but it would take some time to, get into the weeds of why it might make sense to people and why they should look into it.
We'll just go right into that next time. I've had on Nick Hudson. His foundation is Panda. I think it's in South Africa. And it's kind of about like government overreach during COVID. He's come on 3 times now. We've never got to Panda. it's but they've all been fucking great, and we always joke like we'll get to it. It's yeah. So kind of like where, let's say there is the 40% increase in deaths, or let's take something that like we do know, skyrocketing myocarditis, right? Heart attacks in young people, right? We see it on TV. You see the most healthy people in the world, athletes, probably soccer players. They're probably the healthiest. Seen them drop dead, right? That's something we know is not normal. We know that 5-year-olds don't have heart attacks. And there are a lot of people who are, right, you've seen the headlines, climate change is affecting your heart, or, sleeping in a weird position could cause heart attacks. Do you shower this way? It could cause a heart attack. Do you brush your teeth? Really? Yeah. There's just, now you'd have to look at it and go, there's never been heart attacks in young people like this before, ever. Has anything changed in the last year that we've also never done? Just the scientist in me. Well, if I started losing subscribers left and right, I mean tons, And I also started just getting shit-faced during every episode. You'd have to go, hey, in 2 years, 3 years, I've never lost subscribers this fast. Have I been doing something differently? Well, I've been drinking a bottle of vodka and yelling racist shit. You'd have to go, there might be a correlation there, right? That's just what you would think. So when you look at everything happening, you got to go, what has happened? Now it could be that it's COVID, but maybe. I don't think so. It might be the untested mRNA vaccines that's rolled out. Just a theory. Okay. And maybe it's wrong, but it seems like a weird correlation. So
Very weird one.
yeah, a little.
Also, what I haven't seen talked about as much, but what I find interesting, you alluded to the soccer players, and there's some other athletes who had these issues, but there has been this large increase in bodybuilder deaths in the last year. There have been quite a few known bodybuilders. Even I think Mr. Olympia from 2 years ago died in his, I think, 40s or 50s. So quite a few bodybuilders have died in the last, say, 18 months. And I thought, like, obviously, endurance athletes might be more prone to have cardiovascular issues with the vaccine or COVID or whatever the reason is. But I thought, like, if you're a bodybuilder and you weigh, like, say, 300 pounds and you're pure muscularity, maybe the vaccine or whatever else it is has impact there as well. I haven't heard somebody talk about it, but I would be interested if there's a correlation between the bodybuilder increase in deaths and something else, because if you have such a system and your heart needs to pump for a 300-pound muscular guy, I would think that adverse effects are more likely. You see what I mean? Because when they take their steroids and so on, their heart and muscle,
yeah.
So who knows? But you see what I'm saying? It's like maybe it's not just the soccer players, maybe it's also in bodybuilding now.
So, like, with that correlation, if we're gonna look at that, right, and we both agree, and kind of odd, rolling out 1 billion vaccines that no one's ever used before, heart attacks in young people of all races,
by a company that paid the highest, fees
and
for misrepresentation
and it's
of
not
their
just
products.
And it's not some weird, it's like black people are more predisposed to sickle cell, right? Korean people don't have as much alcohol dehydrogenase enzyme, so they'll get drunk a lot quicker and you'll get sick quicker, right? A white Irish guy, I get burned, right?
I have the same skin.
Yeah. This is different, right? This is across all ages, both sexes, all nationalities. What else? What's the common denominator? The vaccine. So if we're going to accept that as a premise of critical thinking, you have to at the same time go, is the world going to shit? It seems like it's darker now than ever, right? Despite World War I and World War II and bubonic plague and Genghis Khan and whatever, it seems kind of, this one seems more vicious. It seems more, the World Economic Forum, it seems like they're going for global domination. It seems like things are more fucked than ever. But there is a variable in the time frame of human history. What have we seen in our lives that has never happened before? And it's everyone has a camera and a microphone. We are seeing the news from everywhere. It used to be you lived in your town. You saw the good and the bad, right? Negative news does grab your attention, as well as it should. If it's 2,000 years ago or 5,000 years ago and someone gets eaten by a tiger, we should all pay attention to that. We should all talk about it and go, you heard about Bob, he got eaten by the let's all be on the fucking lookout for tigers. If a little girl finds a beautiful flower, that's not really news, right? So I think that we have developed over millions and millions of years, whatever the most recent Homo sapien is, to have good and bad. So you'd have Bob got eaten by a tiger, but then maybe you'd have 2 months of good news. Sue had a kid. We found some wild horses and now we have horses. We discovered a new river. and it kind of balances out. And then someone else gets eaten by a fucking lion or whatever, or somebody kills someone else, and that's bad. But then you have all the little good things in your village. Right now, we have access to everything. You and I aren't hearing about every time somebody saves a puppy, or, you know, grandma got visited by all the grandkids. We're not hearing about every little story in Berlin or Moscow or Tokyo or Atlanta. What we are seeing, though, is 10 people shot dead. Guy runs onto subway with a machete. Ukrainian forces bomb or whatever the fuck. China's locking down, Uyghur Muslims, putting them in concentration camps. So we're getting all of the bobs eaten by a tiger, and none of the little girl found the flower. And so if I'm gonna accept that it's weird that there's youthful heart attacks at the same time as a vaccine rollout, I have to also accept, is the world more fucked than ever? Or are we at a time where we don't know how to handle this? We have developed so slowly and so meticulously, just the shapes of our ears, the color of our skin, the digits on our hands. And then, I mean, really, not even like radio or TV. I mean, really, I got my first cell phone in 2007. A lot of my friends.
That's late.
Yeah, that was late. No, my parents didn't let me get them, probably for good reason. But let's say you get them.
How old were you then? That was
I was
15 years ago, right?
No,
so
no, no.
17?
So that was 2005 then. So if
Mm.
I was 15.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was around the same age when I
So
saw it.
let's just say it's right. That's not a normal coming of age story where you get it's not like there are coming of age stories, right? You find the love, you get married, you have the kid, you bury your parents, you go to your friend's wedding. There are these kind of stories that, precede the Great Pyramids. They're just as old as time, right? Love, heartbreak, war. It's not a normal coming of age story that when you become a man, here's your box that connects you to the entire world and the entirety of human knowledge in real time. There's Napoleon doesn't write about, yeah, and then I was 15 and my dad pulled me aside and he gave me the phone. This is brand new, to the point where the generation above us doesn't understand it nearly as well as we do, and the generation below us is even more plugged in.
Mm.
So if we're gonna accept the critical thinking approach of heart attacks, vaccine rollout, never happened before, if you accept that, you have to at least allow the thought, is everything as bad? Is everything worse than it's ever been before? Maybe it is. Maybe the heart attacks really are from climate change. Is there another obvious variable? Am I just losing subscribers because I'm not doing as well? Or is it because I'm getting shit-faced and, calling for the beheading of people? I don't know, Tommy. That's a pretty wild, variation. It's not that you're maybe a little more tired or you're not putting in enough effort. There's a pretty big variable change. That's a pretty big variable change that we have. I mean, I can get on. Every day I download Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and I upload the podcast to them, and then I delete them off my phone. I delete the apps off my phone every day.
Every day. Can't you just get a burner phone?
I could, but I have this, and I know if those are on my phone, just like, there's like kind of that joke about guys, like you won't even be paying attention, you'll be watching TV and you just have your hand on your dick and you're like, why am I playing with my balls? It's just you're like, what am I doing? Right. Or you start biting your fingernails, you don't even realize you're doing it.
Mm.
I find myself throughout the day, gotta go piss, blah, blah, blah. Not even paying attention. My thumb just kind of goes to Instagram. Oh man, that girl's so hot. Oh man, that guy has a better life than me. I'll never have that. Oh man, look at Facebook. Everyone's married with kids and they all so happy. Oh man, I'm so alone. Man, I'm such a loser, man. Oh, look at Twitter. Oh my God, a bomb went off in fucking wherever. And oh my God, like this happened in Spain. Oh man, there's a serial killer in Venezuela. Like, oh, I have to keep it off my phone because I'm not wired for that, right? There are other things I am wired for, like a human being. Anxieties, depression, fatigue, things that I have, that you have, that Alexander the Great had, that Jesus Christ of Nazareth had, that everyone has. And then that also doesn't mean that we have to shy away from it, right? Because we have to boldly go into the future. We didn't avoid airplanes because we've never done that. No, through brutal trial and error, we learned flight, right? Electricity. There were cars, right? The early cars didn't have airbags. You just got into a crash and that was it. You're fucking dead. So you can't avoid it, right? Clearly, I'm not avoiding it. I do a podcast. This is literally what I do. But I have to see the variable that where does all this anxiety come from? Is it you're not paying attention, you're just scrolling? Oh man, the FBI raided Trump's house. Oh man, there's a police state taking over. Oh man, it's the end of the world. Oh, man. My little brother got married last weekend, and we were on this island, and there's no service. And without realizing it, over the course of like 3 days, and I don't like being around people, and that might come as a surprise to people because I do a podcast. I can only handle people for like an hour or so. It drains me. I get anxious. I like doing the podcast because as soon as this is over, I can just turn off the screen. I love being alone. That's where I get my energy from. That's where I get calm. I love meditating. I love solitude. It brings me happiness.
I'm pretty much the same way.
Despite being around people nonstop for like a 3-day function, I was less stressed out than I normally am. And I didn't realize it until I got back to the airport and I had service on my phone. And I started just scrolling again. And I felt this instant pang of like, I was like, what was that? And for 3 days, I hadn't been just scrolling mindlessly. Even if I delete the apps off my phone, I'll find myself go to Reddit. And it's funny. You're looking at, Tim Dillon's my favorite comedian. I always love his subreddit. The memes are great. But then you go into conspiracy or news, and very quickly, the world's so fucked. Nancy Pelosi's going to Taiwan. We're on the edge of nuclear fucking war. Joe Biden's a puppet. They're taking over the fucking world. Klaus Schwab is personally going to rape me. All right. Turn it off. Go walk outside. There's just big puffy clouds going by. Some geese. You see a lady walking the stroller. What are you doing? Huh. It's pretty good. And that doesn't mean put your head in the sand, right? Because that's how dictatorships come to power, is you're not paying attention. But so I have to look at that. What was the big variable? I didn't have phone service this past weekend. Or 2 weeks, or whatever the fuck it was. Huh. That's a pretty big variable for my day-to-day life. Is the world going to shit? Or are we in? It seems long, right? We've had phones for 15, 17 years. But in terms of like, cavemen gathering wood for a fire, and now this is just a 3-day weekend. Are we in this weird, fucked up time where we don't know how to control this thing yet? It's just negativity. It's just insanity. That's the thing that spreads the quickest. It's Bob got eaten by a tiger. But you're just getting notifications on your phone. Bob got eaten by a tiger. Kevin got eaten by a tiger. Sam got eaten. You're like, fuck, where are all these goddamn tigers? But they're like 2 continents away. And so I could be wrong. This might be the end of the world. It might be biological warfare. It might be a World Economic Forum global technocratic dictatorship. It might be thermonuclear exchange with China. It might also be we're in this weird Wild West of the early cars where there were no rules. You didn't need a seatbelt. You didn't need a fucking airbag. You didn't need doors if you didn't want. Fuck off. Just drive around, honk honk. You hit somebody, that's the steering column goes through your chest, and you're like, well, next. And you're still just pumping out Model Ts, right? I don't know though. The early skyscrapers in New York and Chicago. If there was a fire, you were just fucked. Like, you were just fucked. It was just the end. You just burned to death. Now we've got skyscrapers. We've got it kind of figured out, right? Fire suppression systems, emergency elevators, fire escapes. Sure, you get a 9/11, but that's few and far between. We might be in this like really insane time where to us it seems, well, it's been here forever. It's 17 years. I look back in my memory and it's like first time I ever made out with a girl. Oh yeah, I had a cell phone in my pocket. First time I got fucked up. Oh yeah, I had a cell phone. You go away to college. First time you drive your car on your own. I have these in my life like a normal life experience. But no generation before me has ever been able to look back and been like, oh yeah, I remember having my phone in my car when my parents had car, it was the 70s. There's no fucking cell phone. So I have to kind of entertain that. It might be the end. It might just be that we all kind of need to like delete Twitter off our phones and just take a breather. I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, neither do I. I think the social media apps and in general, all the billions that went into people kind of figuring out how to get people longer into Facebook and whatever, like the whole billion-dollar industry of attention and how to keep people in there. I think I stopped using Facebook, I think 6 or 7 years ago. I don't use LinkedIn and so on. I do use Twitter, but only for blockchain and only, to further my knowledge. In general, I think if anything, I'm most addicted to YouTube because you have a video and then you get other options, and I'm very visual.
Yeah.
So like, and for me, if I do 1.5 or 2x speed, a lot of the videos are quite quick, so you can listen to it and understand everything, and still 2x is fine. So I don't read a lot of books anymore, or I didn't really do that when I was younger either, but in general it's like not my preferred way of consuming information. Like, I like to hear and see at the same time and consume quicker than in books. But in general, even with YouTube, there are a lot of problems because you can get down the rabbit hole and be interested in a certain topic, and then like a squirrel, there's something to the right or to the left, and you can kind of lose time quickly. I think a big problem with these social media things is just how much time it consumes. If it would be 10 minutes a day, maybe you feel shitty, maybe you read something you shouldn't read, but it's 10 minutes. You have a life outside.
Yeah.
But what happens is that all these apps combined with TV and Netflix and dating and all of this combined takes up so much of your time and so much of your dopamine reward system that in the end you're sitting still at home alone. You haven't met anybody today, but you spend 8 or 10 hours on some services that
you're stressed
don't
out.
improve. Yeah, and it doesn't improve your quality of life. And in general, I think 50 or 100 years from now, they will look down upon us we were smoking cigarettes against us or something.
100%.
How they were like rabbits giving themselves like these dopamine drops all the time with social media. That must be the result 50 or 100 years from now, right? Because
I mean,
this is not healthy. I think from all the videos and talks I heard about young people getting more and more mentally unhappy and unstable, it's like it's going up extremely for young people, and especially young females, because they tend to be more like comparing themselves to others, right? So I think it's a big detriment. And to the point that you alluded to, the generation before us didn't have mobile phones, and a generation now never knew a life without mobile phones. So we are the in-betweeners who can still see both sides, kind of.
Oh yeah.
And it's gonna be interesting to see how, like, a 15-year-old now, when they're like in their 30s, if their attention span, their happiness, their understanding of the world might be completely warped to what is normal, you know.
And then give it another 2 generations, and we might look at them and go, "They're all so stressed out." But if we're all dead, what's it to stressed and compared to what?
Mm.
They might all be like, "No, this is normal. You're supposed to constantly be panicking." Like, like that might be a weird thing.
Yeah, and I mean, who knows? The point you said earlier about the vaccine side effects or whatever else the reason for the excess mortality or other issues right now is, we might find out in the next years. Because if this keeps happening, maybe it's a multifactorial problem, where the combination of a reinfection with the vaccine, or maybe it's, I don't know, 5G or whatever. So we will hopefully find out before it's too late, because I see it in the elderly, parents and friends and so on, that more and more people have health issues right now,
Mhm.
and it's not like the obvious ones. It's like cancer and people, like, I have 2 cases of where the parents of friends, they just fell over from one day to the other without obvious reasons.
Jesus.
It's not sudden death, they're not dead, but it never happened before. And this, in the last 12 months or maybe 18 months, it's a weird coincidence, because none of these people had these issues prior. But as you said, it's not clear evidence, but it points into a direction where I'm getting more and more anxious about what the reason is and how this is going to end. I don't think we're all going to die. I think maybe the vaccine side effects are not even as harmful as some of us might fear. But my issue is that stuff is happening, and I don't have a clear explanation to why that is.
Yeah, I mean, it might just be that they've always covered up side effects. But now this one's in the age of social media, and whereas they used to just have to censor, like, a couple newspapers, now they had to start censoring, like, thousands and millions of YouTube channels. Maybe we all just got paranoid. We're like, "What the fuck are
Hmm.
they covering up?" And maybe this is just the norm. Maybe it's not. I mean,
To be fair, also, it was under a very constrained time schedule, right?
uh,
So they had to roll it out quickly. Mistakes can happen. The issue is with the double-blind placebo trials and so on,
yeah,
that the trials were so shitty. If you roll something out to billions of people and you produce one of the most successful product ever created in pharma, right? For that time period, with it, you have something that's maybe more successful over 20 years, but you have nothing that's successful over such a brief period of time financially. And governments advertising your product, shielding you from
mhm,
liability and all that stuff. So there are so many different incentives to find something, to roll it out, and to make it available and mass produce it, that once the machine started, I think they found ways to make it going, even if
yeah.
there were concerns, even if the data didn't hold up, because there's so much money to be made, and there's so much pressure to roll out a product to save people, that a lot of them got probably convinced that it's for the better good of humanity to roll out the product, even if it's not super safe, because it saves lives, quote unquote, right?
I mean, that like, you have to give them the benefit of the doubt. Like, let's say it's you and me. Say you're the president, and I'm the Secretary of Defense, and I come to you and I'm like, "We think this is a bioweapon, and if it's not, it's a novel coronavirus. We have this DARPA technology," which that's when it started. It was all DARPA after 9/11, so we could have these, like, rapid reproducible vaccines for any threat. And you might, bring up the big war game thing and go, "All right, We're not sure what this is. And we'll only know what this is in 2 years, but by then it's too late. So option 1 is we do nothing and maybe nobody dies. Option 2 is we do nothing and 90% of America dies. Option 3 is we roll out a vaccine that saves 90% of America. And option 4 is that we roll out a vaccine. Turns out coronavirus wasn't that bad. And like 100,000 people die from adverse effects. Well, in hindsight, you know those. But what about when it's December 2019 and you're in the
Yeah.
Pentagon and you're the president and it's 2 a.m. and the SecDef and the head of the CDC is right there and they're like, these are your 4 options. What do you want to be? Do you want to
Yeah.
gamble and go, I did nothing?
And I mean, modern medicine brought a lot of good stuff to us
Yeah.
as well. So
Yeah.
it's not like I'm anti-vaccine. I'm like
No,
just
not
trying
at
to
all.
figure out the data. And if people don't collect the data nor release the data, then
Yeah.
I have a problem because I cannot make, a good fact-based judgment on what I want to do. And that's why I was holding back from taking the vaccine back then. And then more and more data came out. I'm like, something is not adding up. But most of the people took it because they believed that the government and big pharma together would make sure that it's safe and effective, right?
Yeah.
And I don't blame these people. We might be the ones wrong, right? Maybe this is all like a
We
lot
still
of
don't
time
know.
spent on, maybe there are side effects, but they're not that bad. And now we throw everything into this rabbit hole because we think like, haha, I saw it, and aha, this is it, right? I have a nosebleed, must be the vaccine.
Yeah.
But to me, these kind of incidents that happened in the last couple of months, they are not explained by people just aging or people just, having bad luck. This is too commonplace in my circles now that older, like not friends, but the parents of friends have these huge health issues where they had none 12 to 18 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, this is scary. I'm not going to say it's this or that. It's too early, but I'm getting more and more anxious observing what's happening. And, on the one hand, I'm not going to go around and like try to wake people up that it's the vaccine because I don't know for certain. To me, as to you, it's the most plausible explanation. But we will
We
have to
don't know
wait
that.
and see what's happening down the road. I'm just like, I'm not going to wait until the last person has issues to tell them that something is rotten in Denmark, right?
Yeah.
But
So
it's too early to wake them up because, I'm not certain either.
yeah. And like it's not mutually exclusive that it was either like a heroic act or that it was all bad. Like even if the vaccines did save, let's say COVID was like Ebola, even if the vaccines did save like 95% of the world, you'd still have corporations price gouging. Like that's kind of like don't have a naive view of the world. So like you can go into doing something and people will still take advantage of it. They just will. And it's not exclusive to one thing. Like there were companies that were selling like uh malfunctioning rifles, I think, to the army in like World War One.
Mm-hmm.
Like American companies. And it's like, dude, your neighbors are going to die overseas. But there are still companies that were just selling shit because they're making money. I'm sure the same thing happened in World War II. That doesn't mean that it wasn't a noble cause to go, kill the fucking Nazis and the Japanese. But it also doesn't mean that there weren't some shitheads price gouging, right? So it's
Hey, IBM sold these machines to the
they
Nazis
sold
back then.
IBM sold the punch card machines to
Mm.
was it IG Farben and Dachau? That's how they kept track of them. Now they just do business solutions, but that back then they used to do final solutions. It's
It's
you know
so crazy that they would just sell these machines for the Germans to kind of take
yeah
count of how many Jews got killed and so on.
yeah yeah. So I don't know. You know Krupp, the German arms, that was there for like 400 years, right? There's a great book about it called The Arms of, or Krupp, Krupp. And for like 400 or 350 years, they built weapons for the Germans or whatever, but it was before Germany. And it was all about like protecting the homeland at all costs, the biggest guns, the biggest artillery. That was eventually co-opted and used by the Germans in World War II, if I'm remembering correctly. So something that started as like protect the homeland, protect your like women and children, was then used to like shell villages in Poland. It, you can't always draw like a fine line between good and evil. Like it's really like murky water. Yeah. So it's hard to say, was this released and is the government, in bed with big pharma, and they're rolling this out for a cash grab and then it's a depopulation? Maybe. You could also say it's completely chaotic. It's probably somewhere in between. There's probably factions. Just like the US government isn't a monolith, right? The FBI hates the CIA. CIA hates the FBI. They both hate the Department of Homeland Security, right? The CIA is at odds with the DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency. You have the National Geospatial Agency, and then you also have the National Reconnaissance Office. They're both vying for who gets the better satellites. Like you have NORAD, you have the Missile Defense Agency, and then you have something that I just learned about the other day called DefSmac, which is like the NSA's Missile Defense Agency. That who the fuck was the Secretary of Defense under JFK? Not McCartney, not McCartney. No, what's the fuck is his name? This is driving me crazy now. Do you know who I'm talking about? Who's the Secretary of Defense under?
It's not my country.
Oh God,
I know superficial stuff about these, but not the second.
Oh, now I have to look this up. 1 second. Vietnam.
Secretary of Defense
McNamara.
under...
McNamara.
I heard that name, but
so
wouldn't be able.
So McNamara started DefSmac in the NSA because he didn't think NORAD was up to the job. But NORAD, I think, was also under the auspices of Strategic Air Command, and I could be butchering that. And so you have Curtis LeMay. So you have these guys who, at the highest levels, were still bickering and bitching. Like you can listen to the tapes from the Oval Office during the Cuban Missile Crisis, which is the most insane thing, that you can actually sit in and listen to that. And JFK was taping them without them knowing it. And they sound like fucking kids. You have Curtis LeMay, who it's like you and I saying, like, I don't want to be right about this. Haha, I'm right. The vaccine is poison. And then everyone I love dies. Curtis LeMay said something to JFK. JFK is like, we're not invading Cuba. And LeMay goes, it looks like you've got yourself in a pretty bad fix. And JFK looks at him, well, allegedly looks at him. You obviously don't know, you're listening. And he goes, what did you just say? And he goes, it looks like you're in a pretty bad fix. And he goes, you're in there with me. Like, ha, JFK, you lost the nuclear war. Sucks to you. No, we're all fucking dead. But that's widely regarded as the closest we've been to nuclear annihilation. And they were still like, I told you. So, like, that makes me think that there is no, like, cabal, but it's probably factions. There's probably factions against other factions. Like the FBI and the CIA wouldn't share information. And that's how the terrorists lived in the United States for like a year and a half before they did 9/11. And then afterwards, instead of saying, holy shit, let's never let that happen again, they blamed each other. 3,000 Americans dead. And they're like, he did it. No, he did it. I don't really know how the fuck I got onto this, but
it also leaves room for the question of why it happened back then, right? And like if they knew for a year that the terrorists
Well, yeah, and
were
then
in
it
the
comes. Well, yeah, and then it comes into that, and they're following them, and
they probably let them prepare Tower 7 with
yeah, and then who was it? John Brenner, the head of the CIA under Obama. He was the Saudi station chief, who, whether it's he literally stamped or it's under his control stamped the passports for the 19
Oh,
hijackers.
really?
It's a little odd. It's just
That's an
it's a
interesting coincidence.
it's a little odd. The head of
Yeah.
CIA counterintelligence, James G. Zangleton, had a file on Lee Harvey Oswald starting in 1959, 4 years before. Things that make you think, it's, does that mean the whole government's on it, or is it a faction? It's,
Yeah, the problem is, as a civilian, you never have a good overview of these things. You really need to spend so much time to get to the bottom of things, and then even then you usually only have secondhand
yeah,
information. So with the pandemic or 9/11 or the moon landing or whatever,
yeah,
it's really hard to know what really happens.
yeah. It's. I think that's maybe why I like history, is because I can like sink my teeth into it more. You have like deathbed confessions, you have leaked memos. There's also no one around to like uphold the conspiracy anymore. They're all dead. No one cares. I think that's why I'm more attracted to history, because like although the present is obviously much more important because it's happening now, I'm not as attracted to it because I don't want to waste time listening to 1,000 hours of documentaries on something that ended up being a lie or inaccurate, whether intentionally or unintentionally. I like a lot more going back and like listening to audio recordings from the Oval Office, or seeing declassified memos, or seeing shit from KGB moles or CIA moles. You can just get a better grasp on. But then it's like you said, even then it's secondhand knowledge. Again, Tim Dillon, he goes, we have this idea that just because it's from like a declassified memo, that's the whole story. Like, do you think they're fucking retarded? The CIA didn't type up a memo that said, all right, Operation blow JFK's head off. No. So just because it's not in a memo doesn't mean it didn't exist. There's things where they go, hey, don't fucking write that thing down. We're not, that's off the record. Right. So even that's not the whole story. But yeah, I mean, and weren't multiple intelligence agencies surveilling the high level Al Qaeda members in Kuala Lumpur in the year 2000?
I'm not sure about that one, but isn't it known that the Bin Laden family was friends or had connections to the president back then, or the presidential family? Like,
the Bin Laden
it doesn't mean anything, but the fact that Rumsfeld got filthy rich after the fact and other things is like,
it's weird.
But then again, for example, I saw a documentary about 9/11, and that the ownership of the Twin Towers shifted
Larry
before the
Silverstein,
attack, and the insurance
99
stuff,
release, yeah.
and then I have to stop myself because it became kind of anti-Jewish almost, because
yeah,
this is a, you know what I mean? It's
yeah,
like,
yeah. It's
sometimes you have to like think like, what is the intent of the guy who's making
who's
the
telling you the
documentary?
story.
Yeah. So
It's
but then the problem is, it's factual that the guy owned the Twin Tower at the time, right? So it's
and then you have to think, was that intentionally co-opted and they started making it sound anti-Semitic, or was the guy that made the documentary actually anti-Semitic? Like, it's not a lie to say that Larry Silverstein bought the Twin Towers the year before for a 99-year lease and took out like $4 billion in insurance on them. That's not a lie. If the person then goes to say, and this is why the global Jewish you go, oh, well, for fuck's sake. And it's, Who knows? Maybe Larry Silverstein goes, "Hey, make a documentary," and then poison it with anti-Semitism, or maybe the guy making the thing is actually an anti-Semite. Like,
yes,
you'll know I've been co-opted when I start to say, and Dr. Malone and I are certain that the Earth is hollow and that there are dinosaur people inside. You go, oh, well, now the whole thing's fucked. And like, so was that intentional or not? Or are you just insane? And even if you are insane, it doesn't mean that some of the shit you said wasn't true.
Yeah,
right?
I agree. But most people are more in the black and white, where if this guy is a genius, then everything he says must be
right.
If this guy is a crazy homeless guy, then nothing he says can be, taken for face value. And usually it's somewhere in between. You have some extreme weirdos shaping this world, whether it's through tech or it's, some guy that is not able to live in a normal life in society, but has this unique talent to think outside of the box in other areas. And then, I mean, Nikola Tesla was probably not somebody who was, apparently he was good with the media, but in general, he was very neurotic from what I remember about him. And still, he was very impactful for his time. So, I mean, some of the most successful people I encountered, or this is for the next podcast about Bitcoin. The people are very autistic, very special in their own way, and if you would get to know them, you would not think super highly of them just from their appearance or what they say outside of their domain of expertise. Yeah. But when they move into that field, then it's like, whoa, this is a completely different ballgame. Those are like geniuses in their fields. But,
yeah. I mean, right, FDR is kind of like a legendary president, right? And some people hate him and say he instituted socialism. Some people say he's God. The reality is he pulled us out of the Great Depression, the Dust Bowl, and organized the American industry to conquer the Nazi war machine. Overall, probably pretty good, right? He had a big task on his plate and he did it from a wheelchair. It's pretty solid. He also wouldn't meet with Jesse Owens, the black track star, who gold medaled in Berlin. FDR was also cheating on his wife with his mistress in Warm Springs, Georgia, which is where he died. If he's alive today, he's a racist and he's a misogynist. Hashtag me too. But you put him there and he did a pretty good job. Eisenhower had a mistress. General Patton had a mistress. I think Curtis LeMay had a mistress. They also won World War II. JFK is pretty revered. That dude would be canceled so fast today.
Yeah.
I mean, his dad was a bootlegger selling moonshine in cahoots with the mafia to allegedly help steal the election in 1960. And he was fucking everything that walked in the Oval Office. That's
Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah. You do that today, dude. You would be worse than Donald Trump or Alex Jones in the eyes of the media. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be looked down upon. You do those things, and those really aren't respectable things. He also danced us through the Cuban Missile Crisis without killing us all. Right? Michael Jordan is allegedly an asshole. He also won 6 rings. Donald Trump.
Sometimes it can help you, if you don't think too much or too highly of your colleagues or something, you don't have this burden that, you might fuck somebody over or so.
Well,
if you're Michael Jordan, all you care about is winning, and that's what, gives you your energy. It's like making somebody falter to your greatness, kind of, right? And if that's your driving factor, I mean, a lot of, for example, bodybuilders usually have steady and insecurities, right? Daddy issues, insecurities.
Sure.
Boxers usually are very sensitive people also, and they use this persona to be this great fighter, but by themselves they're kind of, insecure and have a lot of self-doubt, so sometimes that gives you this shield that protects you.
And what you said is, sometimes that may help you. I don't think it's sometimes. I think that's the rule, not the exception. That assholes are wildly successful because the FDR is like, I don't like my wife, I'm gonna fuck her, and I don't like black people, and you're like, Jesus Christ. And he's also like, when Leo Szilard defected from Germany and came to the United States, and then had Einstein write a letter to FDR about the possibility of a uranium bomb. Truman had it in 1945 and was still like, do we use this or do we not use this? In 1940, I think it was 40, maybe it was 42. When FDR heard about it, he just went, yeah, build it. Just straight up, like poker face, build it. And even as it was getting closer to success, they were like, this thing is insane. Like, this is going to be dangerous. He said something along the lines of like, I don't give a damn. I'm so tired of this war and the killing of American boys. Go vaporize all of Japan. That's hard fucking core. That's not some liberal socialist. That's
also
hardcore. That's
not sure if that person should be in control.
But there you go.
I'm tired. Let's bomb them.
Yeah. Well, no, his idea. No, it's I'm tired of all of our boys getting killed. Yeah. So it's, you look at that and you go, that's kind of hardcore. So now if you take any conservative today, and I'm pretty conservative, the FDR was a socialist. I'm like, okay, but he also just not even blinking an eye, just went, yeah, nuke him, fucking end it. That's insane. Like, that's absolutely insane. JFK, a Democrat. Oh, he's weak. No, he maneuvered us through thermonuclear Armageddon. All right. Bill Clinton's a rapist. I've interviewed a woman that he's raped.
Really? Who?
Juanita Broderick.
That was before Lewinsky, or?
That was before he was president. It was in like the 70s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But he also oversaw like the big, and I could be wrong on this, like the biggest peacetime expansion of our economy.
Supposedly, from what I grasped, he was very intelligent, right?
Yeah. So like,
and I wouldn't even say he was a bad president. I think not highly of him as a person, but he was not a bad president, I would argue.
Yeah. So the point we're making with all of these is like, just because you're one doesn't mean you're the other. Right? So I don't, so if Pfizer rolls out this vaccine that may be evil, but there's probably a lot of people in this world who are like, hey, you know what? Maybe they're evil, but at any other point in human history, I shouldn't be alive. But I am able to have whatever daily insulin, or, I have a rare disease where I take a probiotic that only 1 in a million people need. They probably don't think Pfizer's too evil, right? I mean,
the question is, did they just, push out a product too quickly that is much below our expectations, and that, it's a mixture of false advertisement, false hope, and, maybe rushing too much? Or is there something else behind this, where the effects are not by accident? That is,
is it malicious?
That is one of the big questions that needs to be answered, and hopefully not in 20 or 30 years, but before we move on in the next years, because now is 4th or 5th shot, and then it goes on, and if whoever doctors you talk to, what's the Dutch guy,
Gert,
van der Bosch,
van der Bosch. Yeah.
For example, if he's right and we should not use an anti-Omicron vaccine during high infection phases, I think Peter McCullough said that he thinks it's unlikely, or even Robert Malone, but if
Van den Bossche is correct, then this could be the time, like as with the Spanish flu, where you had like a cytokine storm, right? Kind of going for the strongest immune systems all of a sudden, not for the weakest. And in this case, it would not be that effect, but it also would mean the virus would get more dangerous again, and not just spreading easier, but also be more deadly again.
Yeah.
So I hope a lot of the quote unquote conspiracy talks are ending up just being that, conspiracy, because I don't want to see a majority of the population worldwide being influenced by something that has never been administered to humanity in the history of our species, right? This stuff with the spike protein and mRNA and all this combination of things, and then you have constant possibilities of reinfection with the original COVID. I have no clue what this does to our immune system, to our health, and yeah, I hope we will find out in the future that it's all just not as bad as people expected.
We'll wrap this episode up with, I guess, like one last example that I
and something positive, hopefully.
Well, yeah,
because you started off quite positive.
Oops. Oh. That just went back on. Yeah, it cut out. It does that every once in a while. I think we're good. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, it does that every once in a while. I think it's positive. But so JFK didn't want us to invade Cuba because he thought it would be the end of the world. And LeMay was really Curtis LeMay, who had authority to talk. He wasn't just, the head of Strategic Air Command. He also led up the bombing campaign over Japan. And not just like from a desk. He would be in the front plane. The guy's fucking American through and through. This guy saw war. He knew what war was. He wanted us to go bulldoze Cuba because he thought we could, and it was to never let America falter again. James Jesus Angleton, intelligence officer during World War II, saw the worst of the worst, and because of that would justify anything that the CIA did in the interest of America. One of the conspiracies is not they didn't whack JFK just because he wasn't for the war, but because they actually believed this guy, although he has good intentions, is going to destroy this country. And at the time, World War II was only 18 years in the past. So about the same time as I've had a phone. Not that long. These guys remember not veterans, they remember World War II. And they're looking at JFK, this handsome dude that's fucking every bitch, right? And he's going, we're not going to invade Cuba. We're not a war. These guys are going, dude, I nuked Japan twice. And the only reason I didn't do it a third time is because then the third nuke wasn't ready. Hardcore motherfuckers. Right? It might be they looked at JFK and said, we're going to kill him and it's for the best of America.
Almost certainly that was the case if they did it.
I don't think it was just there's probably a lot of guys that went, well, if we do that, we can also make a shit ton of money in Vietnam. Sure. And LeMay said as much, that he thought JFK was weak and that we had Cuba, we could have taken it, and we could have crushed the Soviets. It didn't come out until I want to say 2005 in some document that they found in Russia that there were actually operational tactical nukes on Cuba. We had thought that they were still being assembled. And that's why LeMay wanted to go wipe them out. There were operational tactical nukes in Cuba. And not only that, the Soviet premier, I think it was Khrushchev, had made an unprecedented delegation of authority to let Cuban field officials, they didn't need his permission. They said, if you see fit, you can use this nuke. On an island 90 miles off of America. If we go in there and all of a sudden they start seeing flashes of nukes, we're going to nuke the fuck out of Cuba, and then we're going to nuke the fuck out of Russia or Soviet Union, and everyone's dead. We look back now, and if you could have James Jesus Angleton and Curtis LeMay here, who knows? Maybe they're just assholes and just like, fuck this guy. They might sit here and go, oh, holy shit, JFK was right. But by then, 60 years have passed. So, like, you and I don't know. It might be something where in 2060, some document comes out and you go, oh my God, the vaccine was the single best thing that ever happened to humanity. But
not holding my breath.
Me neither. But the head of the CIA and the head of the Air Force were also certain that JFK was wrong. And it took 60 years to come out after they were both dead that JFK was actually right. I have to have the humility. If the head of the CIA and the head of the Air Force didn't have the intelligence they needed, I have to have the humility as a 32-year-old in a bedroom with a camera that I might not have the big picture. And I would hope that in 60 years, someone might look back at these podcasts and maybe you and I are hated as anti-vaxxers. But they go back and look at these and go, you got to understand where they were coming from. They thought it was fucked. All the signs said that it was a conspiracy. We go back to Curtis LeMay and James Jesus Angleton, knowing what we know, but they don't know. You're looking at them and you're going, I kind of, if we could put our heads in, if we could get into their minds and you look at their firsthand memories of the concentration camps, of the Nuremberg trials, of bombing the Japanese, you might go, man, maybe they do take extraordinary measures and remove JFK. They were wrong. But maybe they were looking at it like, I will not allow another world war to happen. I don't know. I'm not trying to justify the assassination of JFK, which I realize I'm doing. But I'm not trying to do. The point is like, I don't know.
Yes. And also, we don't know who assassinated him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like it was correlated with some agency, but we still don't know for sure. But so the positive is we could be completely wrong, basically.
We could be wrong in that their things might not be that bad.
Hey, I would be the first to be extremely happy if the vaccine improves health for people long term.
So happy. Do you know how great it would be if we were both wrong?
Did you know that with the other mRNA vaccines, there were positive correlations that were not correlated with COVID? So people were doing better overall.
Yeah.
But with Pfizer and Moderna, it was the opposite, right?
Yeah, but I think Johnson & Johnson, one of them, it was like better.
Yeah, so that's also interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, I hope your positive outlook that we might just be foolish idiots with no virology background and doing rabbit holes sometimes leads to, ideas that are not true. Might be the case here.
Yeah.
I'm just, it would also mean that the Robert Malones, the Peter McCullers, the Van der Bosche, and others are completely wrong.
Well, and that's the thing is, if a James Jesus Angleton and a Curtis LeMay were wrong, they weren't just two assholes sitting in a garage talking. They were the head of the head of the head. Malone and McCullough, they might be wrong. They might be fucking wrong. Who knows? Maybe Fauci goes down as like the savior of humanity. I mean, that might be true. Like, I don't think so. Like you said, I'm not holding my breath. But
you're also not trying to increase your viewership, I think, right now.
Yeah. It's like I said, I don't give a fuck. If you don't like this podcast, go unsubscribe. I don't give a shit.
Tommy has become a Fauci lover.
I've been co-opted. I've been co-opted as a.
It's like I got the one spot in your podcast where you're like, guys, it's all cool.
Fauci is a
I'm
good
like, Fauci's
guy.
a great guy.
Robert
Pfizer,
Malone might be wrong. CIA actually is good
yeah,
guy.
no, we have been compromised. We're talking about the positive effects of the vaccine. Yeah, no, this thing. I'm defending the assassination of JFK, the positive effects of the vaccine, and talking about St. Fauci.
Also, the moon landing happened.
Yeah, I've been co-opted. It's over. It's over. It's. I'm not the real Tommy anymore. I'm a robot. I've been co-opted.
To be fair, though, you sound like you're in a good spot. Because I listened to some stuff 2 months ago. I think it was, sorry to bring it up, but it was also related to your brother, I think, that time of the year. But also you seem kind of burned out. And I was like, oh, I hope he sticks around. And today you're like rather the opposite, more optimistic view of life. And, you know, it doesn't need to be black or white. It can be somewhere in between, and it's okay.
Thank you. Yeah,
I think that's healthy.
I could feel for a couple months I was kind of just getting doom and gloom.
Yeah, I think conspiracy can get you into a
direction. It can be too much.
And if you do it as your profession, or try to make it your profession, and you have 800 of those, and all you hear are people that are probably more prone to certain conspiracies than not, otherwise you would not find them interesting. So that can make something with your view of the world, and then everything is like, you know, this rabbit hole of people trying to suppress the truth or something like that, right?
Yeah, definitely got to stay more positive.
Yeah, just for your own health, you know.
Well, yeah, no, that's what I mean. Fuck everybody else for my own mental health. I gotta, you know, I'm very adamant about 8 hours of sleep, cardio, weightlifting, and meditation every day. I mean, I should also have the same, like, you gotta stay positive. You can't.
I agree. Also, you should try to figure out how you can mix your introvertness with not becoming too secluded. Because, you know, I'm a few years older than you are, but I also am kind of introverted. I'm good with people, but I really enjoy being alone. And it kind of drains me to be with people. So when you get older, you might end up not having as big of a friend circle or a social environment as others that are more outgoing. And then when you even get older than that, then it might become just a small nucleus. And I think it's important to make an effort to not just do what you prefer the most, which is abstain from meeting people, and actually get out there. And you know, sometimes, as you said the last time you did it, you actually felt quite good, even though you were with more people than normally and you didn't use your mobile phone and so on. But I think even if you're more of a loner and I'm more of a loner, we're still made to be with humans. You know, we're not single individuals, we are interconnected with others. And the joy you get from watching a comedian podcast might be there, but it cannot compare to having a good time with friends and family, you know?
Yeah. I've had
more focus on real experience, less on, you know, entertaining yourself alone.
I've had more than one person tell me that in the last couple months. Like, and like fellow introverts who have been like, hey, I get it, but like, you also you do have to have a circle. Like, you do need, you're not going to get it from audiobooks and podcasts. Yeah.
Also to check you, you know, because if you're alone and you consume all this information and you
there's no accountability.
Also, there's nobody telling you, man, you should, you know, watch the other side of this argument, because you're now very much into one lane and there's evidence pointing you in completely the other direction, but you might not see it because, you know, nobody's holding you accountable for it anymore.
Well, I think
also just some people that talk to you about stuff that you don't find interesting, but that you would not discover otherwise, you know?
Well, I think we did a good job at exercising free thinking today. I mean, I defended the assassination of JFK without even
and today I learned that Tommy wants me to take the vaccine.
Yes, I also learned
because it's safe and effective.
Because it's safe and effective, and it's good, and profit margins are part of America. Yeah, it's and that was my positive note, was trying to justify the assassination of JFK.
Well, but you might be right, you know.
Maybe.
Sometimes
I mean, I'm certain the CIA head would be saying like, okay, we can save X amount of lives. I know it's crazy, but this guy has to go. And then they
Probably.
find some guy that does the job for them that cannot be linked to one of the agencies, right?
Yeah.
But who knows? Who knows?
Maybe it really was just Lee Harvey. And they were like, how the fuck did that happen?
And how did he get all these angles with these different guns at the same time?
He's just the best shooter on the planet. Why the fuck did we not recruit him? We should have had him take out Khrushchev. Nah, I don't know.
Or Putin right now, right?
Yeah.
Or whoever. I actually haven't followed Ukraine, Russia too deeply in the last couple of months because I realized because of the pandemic that the information you get, you need to dig so deep to get the rare gems that I didn't want to go into that next rabbit hole, spend again so much time on this, and then just getting, surface level information for the most part because I'm not in the inner circle.
Yeah.
So I abstained of going into that rabbit hole. But from my perspective, it seems like that story is also not what it's supposed to be. That Ukraine was one of the most corrupt countries in the world, or number one, I think. And now it's like everything they do is golden.
Yeah, I mean, we overthrew it. The CIA, there was a CIA-backed coup in 2014. That wasn't even a decade ago.
Yeah, and some guy, some Russian Jewish guy sent me that is extremely smart mathematician sent me some videos of the Nazi, soldiers in Ukraine with all their tattoos being captured. Yeah. So who knows what's happening there? It's the world is very complex, and I think in the last couple of years it became much more complex. We have more information than ever before, but it's much harder to know what is right and wrong these days. I think it's different than 70, 80 years ago. You had Hitler on the radio and he's like, this is the solution, and so on. And it's like, well, I believe him or I don't believe him, but you did not have, say, 10 different podcasts to the specific topic.
You didn't have a podcast going, did you know that Hitler is actually being funded by American bankers? That's kind of weird.
That also, he couldn't digest meat, so he was kind of a vegetarian.
Yeah, he was. But no one talks about that. It's just yeah. So in conclusion, maybe JFK had to go. Maybe Fauci is the best. And if you get the Pfizer vaccine, you'll live till you're 200.
We'll see.
I don't know.
And next time I'm bringing up the topic.
We'll get onto that right away. Yeah, we completely just fucking never even got close.
Nah, I'm just happy that it finally happened.
Yeah, I know, right?
Any issues, right?
Yeah. Well, we will resume next week, same time, 4 p.m. Eastern. I've already got it on my calendar, and we'll just go in right off the bat, and I'll just shut up, and you just because I think I derailed it. I immediately just went into something, and next thing you know, it's been.
It's cool. I could have jumped into that topic, but I thought it would be too many topics all over the place and just surface level. So let's do it another time. And I enjoy the more positive outlook on life, where it's not everything as a conspiracy, because I think that's unhealthy. Even though it might be true, who knows?
Yeah, who knows? I think the title of this one's going to be, I don't know, maybe JFK had to go. A thought experiment.
And take your vaccine.
Yeah. Take your vaccine. JFK had to go. Shut the fuck up. Fall in line. I don't know. Maybe I'm just trying to buy off time before the CIA kills me.
Or maybe they already recruited you based on this.
That's the thing. Hey, CIA, you don't need to kill me. I don't actually care. I like reading about history that's decades old. All right? I don't actually care. I'm gonna change my immediate world, and I'm gonna try to do a beneficial thing. I'd like to change mental health care. I'm not trying to overthrow the military establishment of the planet. I'm not trying to upset the hierarchy order of central banks. I'd like to maybe make mental health care a little more accessible. You don't need to kill me. Just I'm telling you right now. it would be detrimental to kill me because then people would ask questions. Just let me flounder in obscurity. Or do whatever. I don't fucking know.
I think you have a good chance of surviving because we didn't talk about the Clintons except for Bill's early days today. So
yeah,
there's no assassination.
Well, I have interviewed one of his rape victims, and that was like episode 200 something. So, you know, I haven't been killed yet.
Yeah, I mean, that actually might put you in danger, to be honest.
I never even thought about that till now.
Right?
Well, I think the fact that she's still alive means that I'm good. Right?
Yeah. And also, it's a long time ago, so probably they could not convict him anymore.
Yeah.
And I think with Jeffrey Epstein and the 30 flights on the plane and so on, he has so many other topics that this is just one of many.
Yeah. All right.
Anyhow.
Yeah, fuck it. Yeah, my brain's cooked. That was a good one. That was awesome. I'll see you next week, same time. I'll send you this episode when it's uploaded.
All right.
Thank you so much for coming on, man. That was a blast.
Enjoyed it.
Yeah. Stay positive, everybody. It's in the end, love wins. It's the only thing that matters. We're all gonna die anyway. And that's not negativity. We're all gonna die anyway. So just fucking love each other. That's all we got. Frederik, thank you so much, my man.